I read more bully romances. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the recent dark bully and mafia romances that I did pick up in the last couple of months. For some reason, I really crave dark romances and the ones that are really angsty, gritty, specifically when our heroes are a bad boy and a bad character and they clearly messed up, and then now it's up to them to beg for forgiveness from our heroine. I definitely like a lot of groveling in my bully romances, so I was on a hunt for those specific type of romances, and then I ended up picking other subgenres and tropes as well. So I thought I would make a video to discuss about the romances that I did pick up. So if you guys are unfamiliar with bully romances, basically bully romances are exactly what it sounds like. Our hero is the bully and our heroine is typically the victim of bullying. So there are a wide range of bully romances where our main female heroine might be very strong and she fights back, but then there are some times where our main heroine are a little bit meek and you don't really know why the bully hates her so much. And that's like the main problem that our character faces, is that there's usually a reason why our bully hates our female heroine to the point, and it's more severe than enemies to lovers. The books also contain dubious scenes that might be triggering for some readers, so definitely check reviews and also read the descriptions that authors do put on their books on Amazon, because they really do a great job at listing out the trigger warnings and what to really expect for these dark romances, so that readers are well prepared for the books that they have written. For me, I'm okay with darker themes and I know my limits, and I know from reviews from my friends and also reviews on Goodreads of what to expect for these books, so I'm okay with diving into it. But let's start with some of the books that I did read in the last couple of months. So the first book that I did read is called With This Ring by Natasha Knight, and it's actually part of her series, or her duet series, called To Have and To Hold. And now this one is actually a mafia romance. This one follows our main heroine, who is a drug cartel princess. She was born into a very affluent family that has a lot of power and control and does a lot of crime to get the fortunes that the family earns. And it starts with our main female heroine held captive by an family enemy, and our hero actually hates our main female heroine too, but our hero actually saves her from, being tortured to death and killed ultimately. And now this is their romance where they are both stuck together and they are kind of living in close proximity to each other, and she is under his watchful eye. Now for this book, it is a mafia romance, and I wanted to pick up some mafia romances because a lot of my friends were reading mafia romances and it's one of their favorite tropes or like subgenres or whatever of romance, and I wanted to read it because I didn't want to like miss something that could be something that is my favorite. So when I tried reading this book, I don't think mafia romances might be for me yet because I haven't found the perfect one, but this one did have a lot of action. It had a lot of darker themes, and it had a lot of blood and gore that comes with crime, which was fine, but like it wasn't something that sparked my interest and that like made me want to keep persisting in the book. And then I also found that these characters lacked a lot of chemistry. I didn't feel like that they were going to like each other. I felt like that they were just in a room together most of the times, and that they were just chatting about their lives and they weren't really like going to be a couple. I felt like this book was actually setting up for the second novel to really give the ending a bang, so I thought that this one was really boring, and that's why I gave it ultimately a 2 out of 5 stars. Now the second book that I did read was called Striker by Rachel Leigh, and now this one is a bully's romance. It's centered in high school. Basically our main female heroine is at a party that she shouldn't be at, and she hears something, so she presses her ear against the door and she hears the fact that our main character and his friends might have committed a crime, and then they found out that she heard, so then now they are controlling her and making sure that she stays quiet, because if she doesn't, then they could be in trouble and they could possibly go to jail, which is obviously a bad thing. Now I expected this one to have a little bit more hate to it, but this one definitely had a lot more mystery to it as well, and it had a lot more crime involved. Now the third book that I did read was called Vicious Prince by Lily St. Germain, and now this one is a mafia romance once again. This one is between two families, Montague and Capulets, so it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet retelling. Two fated families, they're both enemies of each other, and now our main hero actually captures our main female heroine and wants to get secrets out of her, and he does not care about her at all, so he is okay with torturing her and cutting her deep for her secrets. And this one ultimately gave another 2 out of 5 stars. I'm really not doing well with mafia romances and bully romances at the moment with these books that I'm picking out. And this one I found that it was kind of boring. Once again, when we first started the book, it was good, it was juicy, it was interesting, but then towards the middle and the end, I just kind of lost interest and I didn't really care about our characters anymore. Now, the fourth book that I want to talk about is actually a reread of mine, and it's actually super embarrassing for this book specifically because this one I read first time ever in 2020, then I read the second time, like a reread, in February 2021, and I totally forgot that I reread it, and then I read it the third time this month, and this one's called The Bet by J.L. Beck and C. Hallman. And now this one's part of their like new adult bully romance series, and at first when I read it, I gave it a rating of 2 out of 5 stars, mostly because I was being really critical of how our bully is begging forgiveness from our main female heroine, and I didn't feel like it was enough. So I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, but overall I still really enjoyed that book. So that's why I feel like with these ratings for my bully romances, sometimes I give it a very low rating, but it could also mean because I'm rating it really critically, but overall I might be really enjoying the emotions that it does give me in the end. My reading experience plus my rating doesn't really add up sometimes. But with The Bet, I actually bumped up the rating to 4 out of 5 stars, mostly because by the third reread, it just means that this book is good, it's decent, it's something that I want to keep returning back to, so it's not fair for me if I don't give it the rating that it deserves. Now, this one follows kind of a second chance romance between two childhood friends who haven't seen each other for a long while until they bump into each other on campus at a university party, and then she is really confused why her childhood best friend hates her so much, and then our hero, who is the bully, hates her for a specific reason, and then they have a bet among the friendship group about picking names out of a hat, and then afterwards like they have to have a relationship or like a fake relationship with the girl that they pick out of the hat, and he ends up picking her. And then this is kind of the romance between him kind of torturing her and kind of not caring about her, but then ultimately realizing that he might be in the wrong. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was delicious in a sense that it was hot. There was, you know, a lot of elements to it that made me keep reading, and I liked the writing of it, and I read a lot of J.L. Beck and C. Hallman books afterwards, and I just thought that they were my favorite guilty reads that I would read at like 3 a.m. Now the next book that I do want to talk about is another bully romance. This one is called The Golden Boys by Rachel Jonas and Nikki Thorne, and this is part of their series called Kings of Cyprus series. And basically our main female heroine is going to this really prestigious school that she can't afford. And then before she even steps on campus, apparently she has done something that has made our hero hate her a lot. And she doesn't know exactly what she did to upset him, but she is a target among everybody at the school. And then this is kind of like the romance of like how they figure out like that she is innocent and that he is clearly sadly mistaken. But there's like this one piece of information that is shown and talked about in the first couple of chapters, and it makes you want to continue reading the story of like why that occurred. So for this one, overall enjoyment, really enjoyed like the first half of the book because I really wanted to figure out like why our female heroine had that one piece of information that was like talked about in the first couple of chapters. But then afterwards, I kind of got bored because I didn't really feel any angst between our two characters. I didn't feel like that our main hero really hated her a lot, and that didn't give me the angst that I wanted. And then so this one I ultimately gave another 2 out of 5 stars because I thought it was boring in the middle. So the next book that I want to talk about is actually a novella, and this one is from one of my favorite romance novella authors out there. Her name is Jessica Kane, and she came out with this novella called Breaking the Bully. And I was so intrigued by it because I love me some bully romances, even though I've given majority of the bully romances that I did talk about in this video a 2 out of 5 stars already. I really like finding new ones and just reading it, like, even though it's disappointing. So I was excited for this one, and this one basically follows our two characters who had a one night of magic, and like they felt like that they had a connection, but then something happened, and then she suddenly ignores him, so he feels snubbed and he feels hurt, so he actually turns into a bully and makes her life in high school a living hell for 4 years, even though we see from his point of view that it kills him inside that he's so mean to her. And then until one day he stumbles upon something that he shouldn't see, and he grows livid, and he realizes that maybe he got it wrong all along. And this one, I really enjoyed it, and I actually gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely recommend you to pick it up if you're looking for a nice angsty short read. Now the next book that I do want to talk about is a new adult college bully romance called Wicked Saint by Veronica Eden, and I keep seeing this on Amazon, and I was always intrigued by it, but I just wanted to know what this one was about, so I finally picked it up. This one follows a girl who is a little bit more innocent character. She goes to a college party, and then afterwards she has her first kiss stolen from our main hero, but she's not having it, and she's actually like, no, it's okay, it's fine, like I'm not going to continue a relationship with you. And then he feels insulted, so he becomes a bully, and there's this like ongoing theme in school where they're going to try to break the prude and try to convince her to date our main hero. And then out this one I actually kind of really enjoyed. I thought that like the setup was really nice, the story kept me entertained along the way. I read this one from like 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. It was one of those dark night reads that I do when I don't have a movie or a show to watch and I just want to curl up in bed and read a book. So this one I actually gave a 3 out of 5 stars, and I would actually recommend you to read it. It's part of the Sinners and Saints series, so I want to see if I could pick up book number 2 or book number 3 later on next month or this month. So the next book that I do want to talk about is another college bully romance. This one's called Sweet Little Nothing by L.K. Farlow. Now this one definitely has a trigger warning for sexual assault. Our main heroine is a sexual assault survivor, and she is telling everyone that she has been sexually assaulted by her stepbrother, but nobody believes her, and everybody has actually turned her back towards her. So then now our main hero is actually the sexual assault's best friend, and he hates her because he thinks that she is a liar and that she is someone who is asking for it, basically. So it's definitely darker themes and darker issues. Did I like this book? No, I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, and then mostly because I think I just didn't like how things played out in the end. I thought that the book didn't have the elements that I wanted, once again, in bully romances where our main hero actually grovels a lot, and I just couldn't really stand this book, mostly because everybody was just so awful and mean to our main heroine who deserved a lot more, and she actually went through so much, but like nobody made sense in this book. So 2 out of 5 stars for me. So the next book that I do want to talk about is another like new adult college bully romance. This one is called Lords of Pain by Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue. Now this one is a good example of books that I give a low rating to, but I actually secretly enjoy, and that I'm eagerly awaiting for book number 2 to actually come out in June. So this one is a polyamorous relationship romance book, and I talked about it in my March wrap up, I think. And this one is basically about our main female heroine and her stepbrother, who is the bully, and his 2 best friends that make her life a living hell. And then our 3 male characters are her love interests, and then our main 3 characters kind of have like different levels of like hate towards her. We have one character that's actually super sweet to her, and then we have another character who is very mysterious but also very kind to her as well. But then we have our stepbrother, who is the main bully and that will not stop stop until her life is a miserable hell for his own reason, because he is just obsessed with her, but he doesn't know it, so he translates it bullying. So this one I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, but I think it was just because I was very over it. Like, I thought it was just so ridiculous because it's definitely not plausible. Like, bully romances are never really plausible. So then this is why I kind of give it a 2 out of 5 stars. She definitely could have turned for help from the very beginning. Like, she didn't have to like pursue this relationship at all, but it's like fantasy and romance, so obviously like things do get bent. So I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, but I was actually really captivated by this book, and I read this one in one sitting, and I was like intrigued because it had like the darker elements to it that I really liked, and then it also had like moments where our characters were in a lot of pain, and then our heroes had to realize that they were at fault, which was really nice too as well. So I'm eagerly awaiting for the second book because it is a continuation and it is not a standalone. So I want to see what happens next because I want to see if our main heroine is able to get back at our heroes. So the next 2 books are also books that I did talk about in my March wrap up, but I thought I would just throw them in here too as well. These 2 are Mafia romances. So the first book is Brutal Prince. It's part of the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. Now this one follows our 2 characters who are part of a marriage convenience or arranged marriage, because these 2 warring families would do better if they were together on one side to go against other families in the city that are causing harm and stealing property and turf and whatever mafia gangs do. And now this one I really enjoyed. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars because I really liked how enemies to lovers this relationship was. I thought our hero was like super attractive because he was definitely one of those alpha heroes, but our heroine is also very strong and very independent and is able to fight back our hero and handle our hero a lot. So I definitely really enjoyed this one, and I would recommend you to check this one out. Now, the second book in the series is actually called Stolen Heir, and this one was a little bit darker than the first one. This one follows our main hero who kind of grew up in a really dark past, and he had a really dark history that is often a lot harder to stomach as a reader. And then he grew up, and then he was kind of rising in the ranks of his gang and his like group, and then now he is obsessed with our main heroine and actually holds her captive because she's like the key to everything that their group is striving for, because our main heroine is actually coming from a very affluent family once again, and this is kind of their romance. This one I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, mostly because I didn't really feel the chemistry and the hot and the sizzle then like from in the first book. So then this one, it was just kind of good, but it wasn't like spectacular. Now, the last book that I want to talk about is actually kind of like a short story slash novella. This one is from Loki Renard called Broken Princess, and this one is definitely a hot, smoky, taboo read that you could read in the middle of the night. This one follows like kind of like a sci-fi dystopian world where our main heroine is a very spoiled princess, and then because she's so spoiled, a lot of people on her land are not getting the things that they need to survive, like food and water and shelter, but she doesn't care because she is rich and she is spoiled. But then what happens is that that land actually has a god underground, and then he got so mad at our princess that he actually risen from the ground, turned into like a beast human thing, came to her and held her captivity, and went on to teach her lessons about how she is treating people and how she can't treat people like this. Definitely had a lot of taboo elements to it, and it had a lot of like sexual nature elements to it. So if you guys are looking for a spicy hot read, check it out. I really enjoyed it, and I actually gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. But anyways, that is it for all the dark romances that I did read in the last couple of months. I know the romances that I did pick out weren't like stellar 5 out of 5 star reads or recommendations that you will get from this video, but I thought that it would be an interesting experience to share with you guys because these are the books I picked out. And unfortunately, I picked out some books that weren't so great. But that is it, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.